Webster's Dictionary, a savage is a wild, untamed, uncultivated, uncivilized, rude, cruel, and barbarous person. This, in my opinion, does not describe Sequoyah, a Cherokee Indian who made a written language for his people. According to author and lecturer Samuel Lorenzo Knapp, who had an extensive interview with Sequoyah in 1828 in Washington, D.C., he described Sequoyah as quiet, thoughtful, and slow in giving his answers. John Alexander also was a merchant who spent a great deal of time with the Cherokee people, and he gave a similar description of Sequoyah in his diary. To me, this describes a man who is patient enough to create a written language for his people. Sequoyah was a half-breed Indian. That means he was part Native American and part white. His father, historians believe, was a man by the name of Nathaniel Gist, who happened to be a friend of General George Washington. Nathaniel Gist spent a lot of time with the Cherokee Indians during the American Revolution, and it was during this time that Sequoyah was born. There were no Cherokee schools. There were no need for schools since they had no written language. Their education was by word of mouth and careful instruction. Sequoyah was also disabled. One leg was shorter than the other, so therefore he walked with a limp. Because of his limp, he was not able to hunt with the other braves, nor was he able to participate in a lot of the games that they would play. So Sequoyah discovered that he had an artistic ability working with silver. As his silver work started to become known and many people wanted it, he decided he wanted to mark his silver work with his name. But there was no Cherokee written language. So he signed his silver work with his American name, George Guess. And that is the only English he ever learned to write. When he was a young man, he saw a white man's letter taken from him from a prisoner during a warring adventure. And he saw the words written on this letter, and he called it a talking leaf. And that is when he began to get the idea of writing down a language for the Cherokee people. In 1809, he began developing the written language for his people. By 1816, he became a delegate, and he represented the Cherokee people with a meeting with the U.S. government. And it was there that he signed his American name, George Guess, on the treaty. His wife and many of the other Cherokee people thought that he was crazy for scribbling down thousands and thousands of symbols. He would write them on paper. He would write them in the trees, in the walls of his log cabin. Many of the Cherokee people thought that he was practicing witchcraft. So one day when Sequoyah was out having some alone time, his wife and many of the other Cherokee people came and destroyed every piece of his work by fire. They did this because they thought he was practicing witchcraft. But despite the destruction of all his work was completed by 1821, a syllabus that came down from 1,000 syllables to 800 to finally 86 syllables in the Cherokee language. By 1822, the Cherokee Council adopted his syllabary as the official Cherokee language. And by 1828, Sequoyah created the Cherokee Phoenix, which was the first Native American newspaper. By 1829, Sequoyah and his wife and children settled in present-day Sequoyah County, Oklahoma. By 1839, he was elected president of the Western Cherokee people, and it was then that he organized an expedition looking for the lost Cherokee from the American Revolutionary War. He did this by studying Native American speech patterns. Sadly, he died near San Fernando, Mexico, never finding the lost Cherokee. From a silversmith to a linguist, he gave his people something that no single person in human history had ever created. From written laws, to a constitution, to a newspaper, to being a president and leading an expedition. Today, Oklahoma honors Sequoyah by naming a county after him, an elementary school in Oklahoma City, and there's a statue of him in our state capitol. And Stephen Einlicher, a Hungarian botanist, named the giant redwoods of the California coast in honor of this great Cherokee. This, to me, was not the life of a savage. Thank you very much.